All right, thank you so much for joining us this midday. I'm Matt Howerton, and we start with our election coverage. The results are in this midday, and we now know who's heading to November's election after yesterday's primary runoff. One of the biggest outcomes, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton moving on after defeating incumbent U.S. Senator John Cornyn. Chris Sadeghi breaks down how this matchup unfolded between two of the state's most recognizable political figures.
The ballot is now set for November, and the opening salvos of that campaign have already been fired after Ken Paxton's historic victory over John Cornyn. Historic because Cornyn is the first Republican senator from Texas to lose his own party's nomination for re-election, and it was not close. Paxton, riding the wave of President Trump's endorsement, garnered 64% of the vote, and that leaves Cornyn, who served 4 straight terms as senator, now out, snapping a streak of 18 election victories. And at their respective campaign parties, the two men acknowledged the changing of the guard.
When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support, and I look forward to working with him in the Senate to deliver for Texas.
Senate, and I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election. I've said throughout this race that I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it.
Meanwhile, Paxton's November opponent, Democrat James Tallarico, immediately went on the attack with his first campaign ad, calling Paxton the most corrupt politician in America. That ad is titled "The People versus Ken Paxton." I'm Chris Sadeghi. Now back to you.
Okay, there was another closely watched race on the Democratic side, this one for the newly drawn 33rd Congressional District. Colin Allred narrowly came out on top, defeating Julie Johnson by fewer than 2,000 votes. Kevin Reese was with the Allred campaign as supporters watched the results come in and the race was called.
Here at his election watch party on Tuesday night, Colin Allred did not officially declare victory, even though at that point in the evening he was 10 percentage points ahead, and he said the numbers were looking good. This was, however, before the Associated Press officially called the race in his favor. But even then, in his speech before the supporters here at his election watch party, he already sounded like someone who is sharpening his attacks against the Republican Party and the race ahead in November. This is part of what he had to say.
But when we beat them in November and we take back the Congress, we're going to hold them accountable. I'm telling you. I want to see butts in seats. I want to see hearings. I want to see investigations. I want to see us hold them accountable. They've been breaking the law. And we're going to make sure folks know about it.
Then just before 11 p.m. Tuesday night, Allred did declare victory in a written statement, saying that he is deeply honored by the trust the people of the 33rd District have placed in me, and I am ready to fight. Now he moves on to November. In Dallas, I'm Kevin Reese.
All right, so this race pitted two longtime Democratic allies against each other. Our Brittany Costello was there when Julie Johnson conceded the race and talked about what's next.
Congresswoman Julie Johnson spoke to supporters, saying she was proud of the work her team put into this campaign and proud of the work that they've done over the last several years in fighting for North Texans. She recognized the will of the voters and says she respects that.
Thank you so much to everyone who's been on this journey. I've had the great privilege to serve North Texas for 8 years. So I'm going to congratulate Mr. Allred. I'm Team Democrat.
She says now is the time to unify Democrats to face off against the Republicans in November. She says she plans to support the Democratic ticket. In Dallas, I'm Brittany Costello.
All right, so Colin Allred will now face Republican Patrick David Gillespie in November. Gillespie won his runoff against John Sims, taking 57% of the vote. And in the race to replace Paxton as Attorney General, State Senator Mays Middleton won the GOP nomination, defeating Congressman Chip Roy. Middleton branded himself as MAGA Mays, aligning himself with President Trump's America First agenda. He'll now face Democratic State Senator Nathan Johnson in November. Johnson defeated challenger Joe Jaworski in last night's runoff, and after the win, Johnson quickly began drawing a contrast with his general election opponent.
They have turned a blind eye to corruption. They've pledged absolute fealty to Donald Trump. And even if you like Donald Trump, the Office of Texas Attorney General is not supposed to pledge fealty to any president.
And the former Tarrant County Republican Party chairman, Beau French, is also projected to win the Republican nomination for Texas Railroad Commissioner. He defeated incumbent Jim Wright. And for a full list of results and context of yesterday's election night, now on our website, you can find it, WFAA.com there. Now, the voting numbers aren't the only thing that people had their eye on last year. Rain was also on top of mind. Let's see, last night. I think this is last year, yeah. Obviously, it was raining as people were heading to the polls, and we have some flooding, possibly today, that we're worried about.
Right. We haven't seen any official reports, but there are a few flood warnings. So we had some thunderstorms kind of ramp up in the last couple of hours, Matt. So we do have some newly issued flash flood warnings. So let's go ahead and take a look at radar. Our flash flood warning for Collin County newly issued until 1 in the afternoon. And you can see how that rain is just kind of piled in all in the same area. Before I dive into some of these flood warnings, I want to point something out. You can kind of see it right here, but in the last loop, you see a big swirl. That's what their disturbance is. That's the disturbance that's driving a lot of this rain and pushing it towards the north, and it's pretty slow moving, which is why these flash flood warnings are in place. Collin County until 1. We're going to notice here we could see an additional inch of rainfall as this slowly pushes in. I'm not seeing too much in the way of lightning. This is just a moderate to heavy rainfall, but of course, we've already seen rain the last week or so. So definitely any additional rain could cause some issues, especially in low-lying areas close to creeks and streams. In addition to that, another flash flood warning that was issued until 12:30. It includes the far eastern portion of Dallas County, Garland, Mesquite included in that, portions of 635, Interstate 20, and Interstate 30. Rockwall is included. Kaufman is included in this, and that's where that big swirl is. You can kind of see it there as it pushes towards the north. A bit more towards the south, the southern part of Kaufman County did have an aerial flood advisory. That's kind of the first area that saw this disturbance coming in. And this is where we are seeing some pretty high precip rates still. That means that we could see over a 1/4 inch of rainfall in just an hour. We'll keep watching this, but of course, this is very, very much just taking over a few counties in North Texas. Most of the area is not seeing any rain. Temperature right now of 74 under a mostly cloudy sky. That disturbance, by the way, keeping the cloud cover around a good portion of the day. We'll talk about how the temperature acts. We'll talk about how this is going to progress out of the area and added rain chances this week. Matt, that's all coming up in just a few minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mariel. This midday, we're learning more about the victims in a shooting at a Dallas short-term rental home. We took you live to Vilbig Street yesterday as this story was breaking, and police say 3 people were killed there, but another victim is expected to survive. Janelle Ford has those details and the latest on the search for the suspect.
This midday, we are continuing to learn more about the young lives lost in this shooting. Dallas police have ID'd 2 of the 3 victims. They are 20-year-old Jacqueline Scott and 19-year-old Journey Griffin. We spoke briefly with Journey's mom, who told us her daughter was just stepping into a new chapter of her life with dreams, plans, and a personality her family says filled every room. All of that ended early Monday morning at what police say was a Memorial Day party inside of a short-term rental home in West Dallas. Police say the party was packed. At some point, people upstairs started shooting at people downstairs. And for neighbors like Pastor Earl Thomas, who grew up in this neighborhood, that part is hard to understand.
I was told that whoever was shooting was upstairs, shooting downstairs. I'm just like, why? It's heartbreaking.
And this case is also bringing renewed attention to short-term rental homes here in Dallas. There was another shooting just blocks away, also over the weekend, tied to a party at a different short-term rental home. In a meeting yesterday, city leaders once again discussed Dallas's effort to regulate these properties, while the city's ordinance remains tied up in an ongoing legal fight. For detectives this morning, though, they are asking anyone who was at that party or saw or heard anything over near, oh Lord Jesus, Vilbig Road. 3, 2, 1. For detectives this morning, though, they're asking anyone who was either at that party or saw or heard anything near Vilbig Road late Sunday night into early Monday morning to please come forward. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, today the father of a rapper accused in a kidnapping and robbery case in Dallas is expected to face a federal judge. Lontrell Williams Sr., rapper Pooh Shiesty's father, is among 7 alleged co-conspirators arrested in early April. They're accused of holding fellow rapper Gucci Mane at gunpoint at a Dallas recording studio and forcing him to sign a release from a record deal. During a hearing last month, Pooh Shiesty was ordered to remain in federal custody.
I'm feeling sad for the community, and it's really the most tragic thing that's ever happened in Longview in my lifetime, and I've been here 71 years.
An explosion at a Washington state plant has left at least 1 person dead and several others seriously injured, and rescuers are still searching for multiple employees who remain unaccounted for, including 9 workers still missing. First responders are working to stabilize a storage tank at the site before full recovery efforts can continue. Officials say the blast involved about 90,000 gallons of a chemical known as white liquor, creating hazardous conditions for cleanup crews on scene. Several people were taken to the hospital, including at least 1 firefighter who was injured in the response. Despite the severity of the explosion, officials say the broader Longview, Washington area is not currently at risk, but for families and residents, the impact is deeply personal.
It's a huge part of our community. If we didn't have our mill workers, the town would probably face a steady decline.
Authorities say it will be a long recovery process as crews continue searching for answers. President Donald Trump says he wants the federal government, not states, regulating prediction markets. In a social media post Tuesday, Trump called the booming industry important and said it needs federal protection. Sites like Kalshi and Polymarket let users wager on elections, sports, and even award shows, drawing billions in weekly trades. Texas lawmakers are set to discuss whether to regulate these sites in next year's legislative session. And Trump's post did not mention his family's financial ties to that industry. His son, Donald Trump Jr., is an investor in Polymarket and an advisor to Kalshi. All right, let's take a look at our traffic right now with traffic anchor Stacia Wilson. What can you tell us on the roads this morning? Obviously, we've had multiple wrecks that we've been dealing with. On daybreak, we saw that 18-wheeler that was flipped over, caused a mess on I-30. Yeah, the rain's not really helping.
No, absolutely not. And we had a number of problems along I-30. It was just kind of a mess between downtown Dallas and 635 today. So I-30 is looking better, but we've got other issues to talk about, like this one. So this is in Allen. You can see visibility is obviously an issue here with this heavy downpour. This is 75 northbound at Stacy Road, and traffic is just kind of inching along. It's starting to back up as a result of this collision. This just happened, so I wanted to get this camera ready for you. And then also another issue that we're seeing now. This is on I-30, but it's in Rockwall County, and it just happened as well. So this is I-38 Blackland Road affecting the westbound lanes. Traffic slow moving around this one. One lane is blocked. You have an 18-wheeler that looks like it possibly lost control, and so that is causing a problem there. With weather like this, these big rigs, sometimes they kind of have a hard time. Just seeing what's happening across the Metroplex, we are seeing, again, a number of accidents as a result of possibly the weather playing a role in this. So 635 at Jupiter Road, you can see an accident there. And then also looking, this is right around Lake Ray Hubbard. Wanted to show you I-30 at Horizon, the bridge across the lake. So you can see it's really coming down to the east. So I'm going to go ahead and take a trip to Arlington before we take a look at your radar. But just watching 360 southbound at I-30, you have an accident there. It's dry, but traffic slow moving along Texas 360 as it's approaching I-30. So if you are heading out right now, prepare for the potential of running into some weather, especially if you're to the east side of Dallas or Rockwall County or even Kaufman County. All right, Matt.
All right, thank you so much.